Donald Trump back on the tweet deck this morning, still saying we will win and still alleging voter fraud. Then we heard from the US Secretary of State as well, and he's refusing to acknowledge Joe Biden's election win. There doesn't appear that there will be any concession anytime soon.
It doesn't seem to be, and it's a very precarious situation because the transition has to be smooth. It cannot be held up like this. And the lawsuits that the president has already filed have basically failed. He got denied in Georgia. He got denied in Pennsylvania. Actually, in a couple of lawsuits, Pennsylvania went along with them. They were very minor. For example, he asked to have the election observers get closer to the vote counter, and that was granted. But other things to nullify the Pennsylvania vote has not been granted. And I think this is really going to be dangerous because of the fact that other countries are looking toward us to see what the stability of the United States will be, and what continuity of power will be, which is a tradition of American government, that once a president loses an election or elections called for them, then they have to turn power over. One more thing, the GSA, the General Service Administration, which is the government agency that actually ascertains officially that one president has been elected from, and the previous one has to turn power over, that GSA director was a Trump appointee, and she has not ascertained the election yet. She's holding it up. And that's another problem. The transition is not occurring yet. And so Biden cannot get office space for his people. You cannot get funding for the transition team. And this is creating a hiccup in the whole process, maybe more than a hiccup. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary impasse. Peter, are we at a sad point in American democracy when Donald Trump won't concede and there still appears to be no evidence of electoral fraud?
That is correct. There is absolutely no evidence of any kind of electoral fraud or anything that would change the results. The numbers are just too large. I mean, Biden won by 45,000 votes in Pennsylvania. There's no way that can be turned around. There's not enough allegations of fraud even to have those numbers turn around. So it's a very sad day. It's a very dangerous situation, as I said earlier, because it's the first time it's happened, actually. There's been no other president that has refused to acknowledge the results in this manner when they were clearly called by all the major news media, but also the governments themselves and the state governments have actually said the vote count was done in most of these states and the swing states, and that Joe Biden is the winner. And the states have said that. This is a state-by-state election. And yet this President Trump will not turn it over or just recognize. He just has to recognize that Biden is the president-elect and then congratulate him. That's it. So there can be continuity and smoothness. One more thing. Intelligence information is being held up to President-elect Biden. He can't get all the information that he needs because he can't even meet with these Trump administration officials who are in charge of some of this important information that has to be transferred to the new administration. This is a very smooth transfer, normally speaking. It's not working that way right now with President Trump's actions.
Yes, no, it's certainly not. And in terms of Joe Biden, he appears to be really getting on with the job already, establishing a coronavirus task force. How has that been received in the US?
Very well, because now we have, for the first time, a president-elect, and he will be president soon, who is taking this very seriously. Joe Biden has already said when he was campaigning he was going to mandate, or at least at the state governors to mandate mask wearing, for example. We know that wearing masks, testing, massive testing, which Biden has also promised funding for, contact tracing, and quarantining when it's needed, works very well. It worked in Australia. It's worked in many other countries like South Korea. So Biden is taking that seriously. He's put together a task force headed by Dr. Vivek Murthy, who was in the Obama administration as a health official, and several other people who are scientists and actual people doctors who know about this, so infectious disease specialists. He's got a great team together, but he needs to get them to work, and he can't as long as President Trump holds up the recognition of the new president-elect. That's a problem.
And we know that there was around 70 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump. How hard do you think it will be for Donald Trump's base to accept Joe Biden as president?
I think part of the Trump voters, and they're not all part of his base, but a certain percent are willing to accept Joe Biden. Some have actually come out and resigned themselves to it and said, look, maybe Trump can try next time around if he decides to. I think there's been some talk about him running in 2024. But at this point, they're recognizing that Joe Biden has won and they want stability. And that's still a large number that are holding back of his base. But I wanted to mention also the coronavirus situation has gotten far worse. We have over 100 and almost 130,000 deaths in this country right now. And the hospitalization rates are so high right now. This is like a national crisis. And Biden says he's going to attack it. He has the team to do it. But yet this is being held up. And so I think the Trump base, or the Trump voters, should recognize this because they're suffering. from COVID infections as well in the red states.